Hey guys, VaulSC here, hope that you're doing well. So we're about to get started with a new Conquest, the Last Argument of Kings tournament online via Tabletop Simulator. We've had a couple of these so far. I was lucky enough to win the most recent one with Wadroon, but we've had a big old patch since then. The game's been updated for the better. Parabellum doing a great job nerfing the powerful things and buffing some of the weaker things. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you guys through a look at every single army list submitted for this new TTS event, so you can get a bit of a snapshot of what the meta is looking like for Conquest right now, bearing in mind that this is from players all across the world, not just from one specific locality where everybody sort of has the same understanding of the game. That is going to give us a bit of a look at I think the more holistic idea of Conquest as it stands right now. So let's just get into it. We've got a lot of army lists to crack through. I'm in this tournament as well, playing Sorcerer Kings. We'll get to my one towards the end. But yeah, just keen to dive in and talk shop about army lists, and let's get cracking. So Killian is our first player here from France, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry if that's incorrect. But he was also at the international thingy a while back. Now, this is 100 Kingdoms. As you guys can see here, it is feudal theists, my favorite combination. And he is going with the Theist Priest, which I assume is joining the Crusaders because he's got the Elysian Fragment there. So Crusaders going to benefit with the large number of troops you've got in the Crusader group. And, of course, flank, because you want to get as much of your medium stuff onto the table as you can. So I don't see anything wrong with this. Sakai pretty expensive for what they do, but, of course, on that Supremacy turn, you're getting the Divine Purpose kicking off, as well as the Archangel being nearby to give that to them quite a bit. So they are very fast with base speed 6 and pulling out the additional speed. Unfortunately, no Imperial officers, so they're not going to be able to get the Vanguard, but they do hit reasonably well once they make contact. Interestingly, he's going for the sword version, which is interesting. Most people still prefer the shield because of the +1 defense, but this does do a fair bit of damage. My understanding from what I've heard is that the automatic 8 hits is in addition to your impact hits if you actually get into combat that way. So it is kind of nasty. It's still very, very fast. I'm just a bit concerned that it will die a bit more quickly to things like shooting. So that would generally be my plan against it. Mount a Noble Lord with back-end token, giving him Blessed. This is not bad. Blessed works on impact hits as well. So, although I looked at the PDF, I couldn't see which weapon arts he's taken. I assume it's tournament champion, because then you've got 5 brutal 2s with the rerolls from back in. So that is kind of handy for getting in there. These knights presumably getting the veteran treatment from being in the Dynastic Allies warband, and squires, of course, really benefiting from the veterancy from the Tenacious 2 against shooting. And he's got 5 longbowmen here. I don't really know what they're hiding behind, probably the Crusaders, but longbowmen, if these guys keep going throughout the entire game, that barrage is eventually going to be very painful. But of course, if a group of Strix or something lands in them, that really gives them a hard time. 220 points though. They're not super expensive for what they do, I don't think. And School of Fire here with Art of War. This is, what have we got here, 10, 10, 12 card list, plus the 13th one from Art of War, so I don't have any problems with that. This is probably not the most impressive list I've ever seen, but I haven't played against it, so he might have some really cool ideas in terms of tactics that I haven't really thought of. For me, I am more of a fan of militia and men-at-arms, etc., as opposed to the Sakai and the Crusaders, but Knights, even though they've been nerfed a little bit, still pretty good, so can't complain. I think this is a pretty decent list. All right, going over to Drew. Played against Drew when he was into Old Dominion. He's now more into city-states as an American player. He's going for Aristarch as the warlord here with Primo Dynamic Globe. So this isn't bad. I feel like if you're going to be running into a lot of Dwegum and Sorcerer Kings, etc., having that, and especially Old Dominion as well, the Kerries, having that enemy interference is nice, because there's nothing else in here which is going to give him that spell interference. So I can't blame him for taking that. It'll just be a bit of a shame if he runs into a lot of matchups that don't sling a lot of spells against him, but Sorcerer Kings are very strong right now. So I can sort of see that being taken. Hoplites, big group with a Haspis, of course, and Initiative. This is a nice one. So that gives you a free charge or reform, which is nice. It's sort of gets the jump on your opponent, especially when you've got these big old fat blocks that kind of want to get in there first. Tharians have been upgraded a little bit with Juggernaut, really like that. I still think that they are a little bit flimsy. Tenacious 1 helps, but they still suffer a little bit at Just Defense 2. So, yeah, there is that, but we'll see how they go in this tournament. I know a few people are taking them. Chariots have been nerfed, no flank anymore, but I think they're still worth taking because you need more activation. So this is effectively a 10-card list on the surface, but when you see that this is actually a double slot, it's actually more of an 11-card list. Polemark down here with Blades of Achilles. As always, you want to give them the cleave 4. A lot of people in the tournament are taking combined arms drills. This is really good because it affects your entire army and it allows your Thorakites to get the Thirian in there and become scoring, and that's critical. So you've got this first wave of light units which can score, and then the mediums come in. So that works out really, really well. Looks like he's got the Priest Sacred Band here, which makes me wonder why the Primo Dynamic Globe is necessary. He must have just had a spare 10 points and had nothing else to really take that he wanted to take. So fair enough. Overall, though, I feel like this is maybe just a little bit too concentrated. Effectively, 11 cards isn't great in today's, mass spam meta where you have a lot of cards. So against some of those 100 Kingdoms players, I can sort of see you getting a little bit outmaneuvered. But it does have the big advantage of going in turn 1 with all of those Thorakites, getting the scoring on turn 2 as your other mediums are following up from behind. So we'll be interested to see how this one goes. I like Tacos. This is a guy from England. No, he was originally from England, living somewhere else. But either way, playing the Directorate, this is still an extremely strong way of playing spies, and he's done the right thing by taking a lot of guys here. So that's 5, 10, 14 cards. That's more like it. Having said that, with your 14 cards, he's having to take a lot of these basic units of force-grown drones, which die very easily to shooting, and he's spent the extra points on the Catabolic Node. The Catabolic Node is very good, but when you're paying 20 points for it, if they are unlucky enough to get wiped out by a couple of spells and a round of shooting and the node doesn't go off, that is a waste of 20 points right there. So the other thing is you've got to keep those force-grown drones up the front to shield for your other stuff, and behind that, there's not a lot of meat. He's got a bit of shooting there. A-bomb is now medium, which is great, but there's nothing in the army that's extremely heavy-hitting other than maybe the behemoth. But when you've only got one big heavy hitter, your stuff tends to get a little bit outclassed by a lot of the other things around the battlefield. Marksman Clones and the Executor with Marksman Variant, they can make the difference if they get enough rounds of shooting off, but they've got to be protected long enough for that to happen. So that's always an interesting one. What else we've got? The Ferryman's looks like we've got Flank. That's definitely something you want to have in there. But yeah, if you use the Directorate spells correctly, and he's got Master of Flesh as well for the double Biomancy, so long as you pick your targets very well with these abilities, Directorate can be quite scary to face. Another City-States player. So we've got Standard Laceration. That's the Aristarch's way of going into the Selenoi and being able to score. So I've seen that combination before. It can be kind of annoying because they get really far into the lead with the point scoring sometimes. We've got a couple of Floggabolons as well, and the Telos. So Telos is a really good way of anchoring this army, and the lovely the Hawkwork Cloplights, the Clockwork Hoplites with the Eidolon, and he's teched them up a bit with the extra March and Double Time. I love this. Anti-Scythian Alloy Gears, excellent. And of course the thing to keep them in range of the Promethean. So yeah, this is the one situation where I probably would take the Promethean once you've got that synergy with the clock lights. He makes them very, very tough. So that's useful. But the rest of the army just feels a little bit small, a little bit concentrated. With only 11 cards, yet again, you are kind of committing to a few key spots in the battlefield, and the problem is getting outmaneuvered in the late game and also out-activated, where you're just waiting for that turn to play your Talos or play your clock lights, and you get to that point and your opponent's still got a couple of cards left. It's not really ideal. And that's kind of the trouble of Advanced Conquest at the moment. Love the clockworks though. Good to see them on the field. Then we have Dre playing his Nords. So yeah, we got 8 plus 8, 8 and another 5, so it's 13 cards if I'm counting that up correctly. 10 points left over because there's nothing to spend the 10 points on, crazily enough. And the Blooded Warlord, just allowing a lot of stuff to show up early. The scary thing about this list is that on turn 2, you're showing up with so much stuff, and you've already got the bow choice in there as that first line to pepper your opponent as they come towards the objectives. So the plan is really to be scoring from turns 2, 3, 4, and 5, and by the time your opponent overwhelms you, because this is not really a very good attrition list, it just doesn't have the beef to be able to beat a lot of enemy combat units and heavies, but it doesn't necessarily need to, so long as it's got a big scoring lead by around about turn 6, and if you're still trying to shoo the trolls and the Fenner beasts off the objectives and they're still too far ahead of you, you just can't win at that point. My thought about this is that I wouldn't want to come up against it on missions like Melee and Maelstrom and Breakout, and just missions where there are a lot of objectives throughout the middle of the table, because the Nords are going to get there way quicker than you and just soak up so many more points before you can get there. But if you come up against them in a mission like Echelon, where you've each got one home base objective and it's just equal scoring throughout the game, then what's going to happen is that by about turn 9, you probably will have won the arm wrestle and beaten the Nords off, and you can actually have 1 or 2 rounds of double scoring at the end to catch up on them. So yeah, that's my concern about this list. I think it's a very good list. It's very scary. I wouldn't want to come up against it in those missions I mentioned, but in this particular tournament, I think Forlorn Hope's the last round. So if I played against this list the last round, I feel like I'd have a better chance, because Forlorn Hope is one where you've got 2 circles towards your own side of the table, and that's a bit more manageable against the widespread, fast-moving, fast-deploying Nord Horde. All right, another City-States player. This time we've got, again, just the 2 warbands. The City-States guys seem to really love that. So we again have combined armed drills, which means that auxiliary stands count as 1 additional stand, which is great because the Thorakites just come straight on. They just start scoring. So he's got triple Thorakites with Tharian on each of them, so that really adds to the scoring game big time. These guys will be great at just double marching up and then forward formationing onto the zone, so that's actually really annoying. And then in the late game, you've still got the big block of Hoplites and Phalangites and the Tharians and the Talos there to try and win the battle long term. So it is kind of scary, but again, I think card advantage, you may get to a point where, you know, your opponent just is able to out-activate you by the end of things and out-position you, so that is a concern, but maybe the early scoring will help as far as that's concerned. Blades of Achilles on the Aristarch instead of the Polymarch. Nice. Don't see that often. So we've got the Atalanta Spear, just as good, to be honest. It's a really good item. And Resist is great. I believe that gives Tenacious. Yep, so that's going to go on the Phalangites, probably, I'm guessing. A big, tough unit to get through there. All right, Mathis, our only Old Dominion player with the Exiliarch. Love that. Exiliarch's still a very good warlord choice, and double Legionnaires, they can't benefit from the Exiliarch's thing as easily, the supremacy ability, but the Thanatos certainly can. Only 2 units of 3, so I guess he's just not really going to go all in on the whole idea of the supremacy round, saving the rest of the points for the spellcasters, which is a good idea. I'm interested to see how this goes. I still think the Varangians are okay, and if you take the Praetorians as one of your mainstays, you have something else in your warband that can benefit from the value of the free clash turn. So there is that. Athenatoi very fast, of course. That helps when it comes to getting in range for your Supremacy turn. Archimandrite with Unholy Mastery. This is a bit of a gamble. Free spell if you get 4 successes. Can be a little bit difficult when you're up against spell interference, but I do like the idea of getting a heal off to counteract some of the damage your Hierodeacon's doing with the Dark Shepherd, and at the same time putting out Blasphemous Power onto your Moroi or your Keres to give them a good spell turn. Cultist, Hierodeacon, nothing wrong with that. Gets onto the field quicker for his Dark Supplication. Cannon is still a really strong heavy, and I think this list quite correctly takes just the 1 heavy so that you're maximizing turn 1 light deployments, maximizing turn 2, then on turn 3 you auto-pick the Cannon and some other mediums are rolling in, and you've got the entire army on the field in turn 4 at the latest. So very good spread of points, and this achieves what? 14 cards? Am I reading that right? So 5 in that one, 5 in that one, 4 in that one. That's amazing. Very hard to do with Old Dominion. And I think if you went the way that I was explaining with Praetorians and Varangian Guards with the Auxiliar, you certainly couldn't achieve that. So pretty scary list, if you ask me. Pretty strong. All right, our one Euroni player, which is Halaka's list. So we've got the Daimyo in here with the Gunbai, forward force. Ayakashis and Kababushis, just for a few. I'm gonna like pretend like I know what I'm talking about here. I haven't really studied Euroni. I have played against Halaka once with his Euroni in the previous patch, and I've played in one other game against Euroni. Ayakashis, the other shooting ones. Expect to see those there. Ignoring hindering, that's pretty good if you've got these guys which do like a ton of impact hits, if I recall correctly. So impact 2 on that one, Ayakashi impact 2, and I think that there's probably some other impact bonus that you get from the ideal cards. Trial of Hakari Ishi, that's Tenacious. Okay, sure. So she's a bit more in terms of the toughness. This is a brutal combat character, by the way, and with the Warlord, this can be fluid formation when you play the ideal card, which is really nice. Gives you a bit more leverage for your charges with the impact hits and everything like that. All right, I'll report back after I've played him in terms of how this list actually goes, because I'm still pretty clueless when it comes to Euroni. I do notice the Damaru got a big buff, which is why you're seeing them there. So they're very fast, very tough against shooting due to the Tenacious 2 Visage. Only wounds 4, but they're still pretty cheap. The only thing that holds it back is the lights, but if you want to, you can put the Kitsune in there with Powerful Presence to make them scoring, which is a pretty good combo if you ask me. Okay, this is our tournament organizer with his Mortals Only Sorcerer Kings army. This is a meme list, so you've got 10 there, 13 cards is always good. The only problem with this list really is it just sort of spams mortals, and it doesn't really have a lot going for it in terms of the rituals and the spells affecting them in the same way that you can get your elementals going off. So, yeah, I'd be interested to see how it plays, but I just feel like this is generally a bit of a meme list. It doesn't quite have enough shooting to make a dent from long range, and the Maharabti, although they can be useful against enemy spellcasters, when you're taking that many of them, they will get swept by ordinary troops. Like if you're just coming up against the Sakai, Men-at-Arms, and Legionnaires and all that sort of thing, they just sort of have a bit of an even trade against those regiments, even though they are more expensive. So yeah, that is a bit of a meme. Over here, we've got Redbeard, who I've played against before. Very good player. I believe he's from Germany. And we have seen a little bit of a buff to Spire's lineage, Sovereign lineage. So we've got the classic lineage Highborn Legacy of the Ark with the ubiquitous Cascading Degeneration, Command Pheromones, Familiar Override. You always see those 3 there. The new thing, though, is that the Avatara have got Flawless Strikes, which makes them a little bit better. Superior Creations, I think, are just like a flat 10 points, or there's some change to them to make it more effective cost-wise. But I always used to compare these guys to Household Knights because they've got a similar sort of speed and number of wounds and similar sort of defense there. Whereas they're there to kind of unlock restricted slots for the Sentinels, but now they're actually a little bit more interesting in terms of the Flawless being on there. Quite like that. Sentinels, definitely the way to go with the Highborn and the Ferromantic Override. Really brutal turn when you match them in there and you get stuck in with the Cascading Degeneration and the free attack, the free slash. So everything else here is pretty stock standard. We've now got a medium Abomination, so we'll see how that runs. And the High Clone with Eagle Eye and 3 Marksman Clones. So it is a bit of a nasty list. If you can find a way of preventing the Highborn and the Sentinels from getting like a massive value turn, like if you can sort of shut them in a bit or feed them a cheap unit and outmaneuver them, you can beat this list. But it comes at you from a number of different angles with a lot of different problems, so definitely not one to underestimate. Okay, Re-M, we have 100 kingdoms. This is a imperial feudal list. Double Steel Legion. These guys have been improved with the hardened, but they're still a little bit lackluster with just their 4 wounds and defense 3. So against a lot of basic shooting, they're going to have a hard time. The officer himself can give forward force, probably to one of the Steel Legion, considering they're heavy. So you bring one on automatically, and the other one flanks on. And there doesn't seem to be any other heavy, so at least you can bring them both on turn 3. Hunter Cadre, always amazing. Null Mage, kind of crazy. So you are going to be coming up against some opponents who just don't have any like priests or wizards. Like you come up against like Dre's list and there's nothing there to get value out of. So that's why I don't like Null Mage. But the thing is, if you come up against like Sorcerer Kings, for example, or Scion of Conquest riding a Taunt or whatever, these guys can actually be pretty nasty. So yeah, watch out for that. School of Fire, and we've got School of Water with Art of War, so 2 different schools of mages, and then the Noble Lord and the Household Guard. He's got a lot of gear here. Armor Dominion, that's my favorite one. Gilded Rampart, don't know if that's worth the points. Oblivion is nice, but you do get a lot of other ways to keep them alive in terms of like the high numbers and the resolve there. Get into position, forward force, definitely nice, and 3 longbowmen at the back. Not bad. It's got a lot of activations, so we've got 10 there, plus another, so it's 14 card list, plus the Art of War makes this one really hard to out-activate. The Steel Legion are a bit off meta, and same with the Null Mage, but I could be proven wrong. Like with the changes recently, they may actually be worth it. Over here, speaking of Scion Conquest, this is the target I was thinking of when I thought about Null Mage. Is like this guy is riding the Drum Beast with Kiss of the Dinosaur, which is hilarious. I am told that Kiss of the Dinosaur doesn't work on the Tauntaur, on the Drum Beast, so there is that. But it will work on this guy, who's got 5 attacks, Clash 3, Cleave 2, so that's nice. Basic Brave system scoring, Winglord with his Speakers group here. This is generally a Speakers list, so to speak. And Chieftain on the other Tauntaur. The thing about the Tauntaur is that you get Vanguard 5 from being a rider now, which is nice. What do you get from Drum Beast? Is it something similar? Oh yeah, spells plus 4 inches. That's amazing. So now that you've got these new spell lists here, like this one, that's going to be like a 16-inch nuke there with Cacophony. So I do kind of respect that. This is an 11 card list. So 8, plus 3 is 11 card list. So it's not really spreading the points across as many cards as you would normally like, but there's definitely power. You've got to go through 1 Drum Beast and a Tauntaur, and then there's a Winglord. There's a lot of cheap chaff in there as well. So I can see the Raptors in the hunting pack having a bit of a hard time if your opponent is spelling early game spells and stuff, like maybe if they're running into a lot of Keres and Moroi, etc. from that other list, they could struggle against that. But as long as you play it well, like as long as you position the lights very, very well, that late game can really steamroll once the Drum Beast and the Tauntaur are there. And I love the Vanguard on the Tauntaur. I think that's critical because by turn 4, he's probably ready to charge something that's on his own, right? Tyrell of Maud, this is another Wadroon list, but we're running a Thunder Riders version of the Speakers, which has always been one of my faves. This has been a strong list for a long time. Unfortunately, Conquest has changed, so you don't get the extra speed buff. What Conquest is doing is just giving you the +2 evasion, which is nice. It's not nothing, but I would have preferred the extra speed. But still, having resilience on all those Thunder Riders is still very, very good, and flank still on both Thunder Riders, which is amazing. Then everything else we've got here, a lot of lights, I must say. So in terms of scoring, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 scoring. That's not bad, especially the chief on the Thunder Rider the chief on the Tontor with Vanguard. Like that's going to take a zone. That's not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. Yeah. Got to be careful against these guys. Again, 11 cards, so would be nice to get 12, but when you're playing speakers, your stuff is generally quite expensive, so it can be hard to afford to spread your points around like that. Nice list. I can't say anything really bad about this list. I think that it's really, really solid. Okay, Vagabond with his Nords over here. So we've got 5 there, 14 cards. Again, this is about playing the early game. So you've got a lot of raiders. They've all got captains. Of course they do. So they are going to be coming in turn 1, scoring turn 2 very easily. And then they're just going to be shoving you off the objectives in turns 3 and 4 with their massive number of pigs and werewolves. So that's going to be a pain to deal with. Yeah, again, I think that this list is exceptionally nasty on missions where you've got to spread out and sort of get to middle zones, but it's probably not that difficult to beat on Forlorn Hope and Echelon, where it's just a very slow burn to the objectives in turn 2, and then turn 3 and 4, you're sort of moving to the middle line to fight, and by turn 5, your opponent's got everything on the battlefield to really get all their combos and spells and junk off. One difference between this and Dre's list, of course, is that we've got the Volva Warlord instead of the Blooded Warlord, so it doesn't come on as fast, but the Volva does give you spell interference and the extra evasion on everything, so evasion 2 raiders are quite difficult, and plenty of spells flying off with the double Volva, of course, so different Nord style to be sure, and scary in its own way. This list is my list. This is me deciding to play Sorcerer Kings because I saw that Wadroon was going to be very well represented this time around, and I've already won the last tournament with Wadroon, so I wanted to try a different faction. So I had a look around for a faction that I like the look of that's also more powerful from the patch, and I do feel like the Sorcerer Kings have been buffed. When I found out what you can do with Court of Fire, I was like, yeah, that is my style. So Sorcerer, Warlord, Court of Fire, it means that unfortunately everybody has to be Court of Fire. But Omnipotence is kind of a gamble here where if you get a spell with 4 or more successes, you just get a blatant free spell. And I think that even if that happens like 25 to 33% of the time, you're just pumping out so many free spells that the Value Town snowball is just going to crush your opponent through the mid-game if they stand in front of the spell effects, basically. So plenty of sword dancers, which have been buffed now. They have relentless blows, and of course the rituals give them even more damage, and if they're inflamed or charging an inflamed unit, they get juggernaut, so that's why you want to take them, right? So 11-inch charge, then they clash, and getting the rituals off is actually quite easy now. And of course, there's even the ritual that gives you the 3rd activation still. So what's not to like? You have your turn where you put down your conflagration, and then the next card's a Sword Dancer Regiment. It could be any of the 3 sword dancers we've got on the field. They get a free 6-inch move, then they charge 11, and then they wallop you with their crazy relentless blows, and hopefully do a lot of damage for a mere 170. We've got the especially big Sword Dancers Regiment to protect the Raj, who is picking up Bound to the Elements and Prem Kanjar, which makes him an absolute powerhouse. You're talking 9 attacks, clash 3 with Flurry, and he's got Flawless Strikes, and effectively the Relentless Blows will technically apply to him as well as everything else that goes on the Sword Dancers, so that's kind of nutty. It probably is a bit of an overspend, to be honest. I've got 5 plus 9... 12 cards plus the ritual cards, so I could have spread this regiment out to have some more cards in there, but I felt with the ritual getting to 13, I should be okay. Mahout with no rider, I'm fine with that. The Mahout can't be can't have a character on it in this list because it's a Earth Elemental, and all of the other characters need to be Fire Elemental for this to work. But the Mahout still needs to be in there anyway because it is just great value for 240 points at 20 wounds. and the constant shooting you get from it as it's moving onto the table is really welcomed. And the new gilded statue thing to put the earth marker there will give it untouchable, which is great when you're hard on one and you have 20 wounds, just to make it even harder for your opponent to one round it or two round it, giving you more turns to get the hits off. And it's got dread for some. Why do they give it dread? It's actually quite hard to kill in close combat now. So if this gets like 3 rounds of combat against something, it's going to grind really, really hard. So I just love that. Yeah, Sorcerer, by the way, elemental projection for the extra spell range, which I love. She's also got the thing where she can double ritual token. So that's useful because the idea is that you go for a spell that's easy to cast with Wizard 7, and if you get 4 successes, you cast another spell, get the free ritual token. So trying to combo things off there with the list. But we'll see. It's going to be new to me. I don't know how. I haven't actually played this list yet, so not sure how powerful it'll be. And then lastly, Dexander with his Sakurai spam. Loving to see it, even the Flesh Cleaver on the Theist Priest. So that's cool. Would have expected to see Elysian Fragment, but that didn't make it. Archangel with the shield, as you'd expect to see, and a couple of Chapter Mages. Only problem I have with this meme list is that I don't know if he actually realizes that there was a ruling recently to say the Chapter Mage can't be a dynastic ally. So the army itself is not getting the benefit of Vanguard and does not have the turn where everybody gets, fluid formation or free reform or whatever it is, plus opportunists. If it had that, this would be kind of a cool list. But without that, you've really just got the one turn where everybody gets blessed except for the crossbows, and the Sakurai just go wailing into combat with blessed and extra charge range. With that supremacy turn, I just don't think it's going to cut it, because you're never going to be in a position where you have all 6 Sakurai units ready to go. What's going to happen inevitably is that when you get to that supremacy turn, you're going to have 1 or 2 really good combats, but it's going to be like you draw a card, you attack, you have a great combat, then it's your opponent's card, they can wipe out 1 Sakurai regiment, so you can't fight with that one. Then you have another go with your next Sakurai regiment, and then they do the same to one of your Sakurai regiments. Then you've got a couple of Sakurai regiments which are not in position or are dead already or just don't have the ability to attack. So that's my problem with it. But I would be happy to commend this list if the Chapter Mage could be a dynastic ally. The thing that would make this list better, I think, would be to take out one of the mages. Like if we take out, say, the Water Mage, get rid of her, and if we go in, we grab the Imperial Officer and put him in a unit of crossbows and make him a dynastic ally, that's looking a lot better. And then what we can do is we can go and chop down Talented, don't need that anymore, and go and grab School of Fire. And then we're at 2,000 points, same number of cards, and the Officer is giving everybody that one turn of free reform, which is amazing because you've got your 6-stand Regiment of Sakurai able to like swing around and then charge something with, hopefully with Blessed as well, and that would be amazing. But otherwise, just a meme list. Good. Well, looking forward to the event, guys. I'll try and record a few games and report back about how we do. Hopefully I don't crash and burn with my inexperienced Sorcerer Krings, but yeah, we'll see you there. Thanks for watching.